Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel. My name is Harry Durham. It was another huge weekend of Euro Tour action. Luke Humphries came out on top and won the Czech Open for the third time in his career. He absolutely loves Prague, doesn't he? The great and powerful Matthew Edgar was over there on commentary duties for the PDC, and I'm pleased to say he's here with me now. Matt, brilliant to see Luke Humphries with a smile back on his face after what has been a tough few months for him off the back of winning the Premier League.
Yeah, it really was actually, and I think he was starting to feel the pressure of that as well. You can certainly see in the interview afterwards in his reflection of it, and the joy when he walked off stage. The part that people didn't get to see when he walked off, that was genuine. That was genuine relief and joy, as if that was his first title. We all saw what it meant to him on the stage, but it's when they come off you get to see what it truly means. And I managed to have a good chat with Luke Humphries quite a bit this weekend, and I spent a bit of time with him and sort of get a few reflections after rounds. And that opening night didn't go well for him, didn't it? It wasn't the performance we expect of Luke Humphries. He was really up against it against Dirk, and missing big numbers. I'm a stats man. I dug it, like digging into my stats and my numbers. He actually missed 4 big numbers in that game. Missing doubles and missing them by far. He did put that down to the heat, however, and I can back him up on this. It was very hot in that arena. And one of the things that was very impressive, though, was how he sort of adapted and how he goes, right, okay, it's hot. I can't change the environment, but I can change how I deal with it. And he put extra precautions in for the rest of the weekend. And was it his glittering best? No, we've seen better from him. But did he win a psychological battle? 100% yes. And that is just what he needed going into the big part of this year.
I think with Luke Humphries, sometimes if it's Euro Tours, if it's in Player Championships, or it's in majors, and they obviously went out in his opener of the match play to Jan van Veen, but I don't really think we really see those box office performances at the early stages of tournaments. It's when he gets through to the latter rounds, that's when I think he really shines, and he did, especially against James Wade last night. I mean, tiredness, fatigue might have come in at the early rounds against Josh Rock, but then he really put the pedal to the metal last night, I thought.
Yeah, and have the conversation with those two players, Michael van Gerwen and Luke Humphries. Complete night and day in regards to the first round. Michael van Gerwen had one of his best averages we've had for about 2 years. 112 average, demolition job in the opening round, went out in the very next game. Luke Humphries, it was a total opposite, really struggled in the opening game, he went on and won the title. Who's going to be the happier of the two? Round one is all it is, it's just one round, one game, and it gives you a chance to feel into the tournament as well, because I'm very used to losing in the first round. You go and you always feel like you wasn't in the tournament. It feels like you wasn't there. It feels like you was a bit of a guest of the event rather than actually being involved and sort of taking part and being a part of the story of that tournament. And he was a real good story. Luke Humphries, I think when you look ahead to the back end of the year, no doubt he's going to be feeling pressure because 2 years ago he was exceptional. He's defending a lot of titles, not only the World Championship, the Players' Championship finals, the Grand Prix, to name just a few. So things are probably going to start moving for Luke Humphries. He's used to being the world number one. It looks inevitable that he's going to come off of that spot with Luke Littler taking over now on that top position, which, again, just brings pressure with it because instead of looking forward, you're just checking over your shoulder.
Why do you think he hasn't been able to be at those levels compared to, say, last year and sort of 2023 as well, going into his first world title?
I just think it's unrealistically unsustainable because he was playing so well. To play that well for years, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm going to say it's very unlikely that we ever see that. I think the peak era of a player now, we're looking maybe 12 to 18 months. Phil Taylor's day, what did he have? He had the World Championship, then the match play came around, then the World Grand Prix. We've got 14 European Tour events this year. They're all played on stage. We've got more majors than ever. We've got World Series events. We've got 34 Pro Tours. You can't sustain that level of performance at that very top end that many times a year. If this was boxing, you'd fight once or twice a year to get that peak performance, and you'd have 6 months to build yourself up to get ready. Luke Humphries has about 3 days. If he was playing the Pro Tours this week, he would have 1 day. He'd win the title on the Sunday. That one day off would be travelling to Hildesheim to play the Pro Tours on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then off to Amsterdam, for the World Series finals. Then off the back of the World Series finals, we got another European tour in Budapest. So it's just unsustainable to believe that peak level of performance. And I think what we're going to see more moving forward as the Divey expands even further into 2026, I think we're going to see people be very, very selective with their dates, because they've got to protect that level of performance, not just the work-life balance.
I want to speak to you about Josh Rock as well, to Euro Tour finals, losing to Littler last weekend in Antwerp, and then Humphries in Prague. I mean, the guy is a joke. Let's be quite frank about it. I'm not going to ask you a stupid question because we know how good he is. I'm not going to say how good is Josh Rock. We know how good he actually is. He's a World Cup winner. He's a match play semi-finalist. But he said at the start of the year he wanted to be right up there with Luke Littler. He's getting so close now. I mean, he's already won a Euro trophy. He's so close to potentially going further than that and getting his hands on a major as well.
I think there's two conversations with Josh Rock. One is, does he win a major? I think it's when. And the other conversation with Josh Rock is, does he become a Premier League prediction or a Premier League selection? And I think he does. I think right now he's in, as things stand. Now, the back end of the year obviously could dictate or change a lot of things in regards to that. But I think Josh Rock right now is one of the most exciting talents on the world of darts. And I think the real good thing for me, I was in a very privileged position last night because obviously I was calling the final. And it was a very, very privileged position to stand and see the reactions of the players when they came off the stage. And Josh Rock came off and he almost had a smile on his face because he goes, it's not like I'm losing round one. I've just reached 2 finals. And when we look at the level this weekend, we only had 3 of the top 32 players not at the European Tour. It was absolutely stacked. Possibly the greatest European Tour of the year, certainly in regards to the level. Only Gary Anderson missing out the world's top 20. So it just shows the standard that was out there. So to reach the final, that's something that he's got to be positive about. And again, looking at the back end of the year, I think he takes the title.
Which title do you think he'll take? Because obviously we've still got the Slam, we've still got the Grand Prix, and obviously, well, it'll be the 2026 World Championships. Or could he take that European Championship in Dortmund? Players' Championship, where do you see him, or what do you see him lifting?
I think the strength for Josh Rock will come in a week-long or more style event. I think events like last night, the European Tour, where you play an afternoon game, then 3 games in the evening, I think because Josh Rock plays with so much adrenaline, he plays with so much he's so mentally engaged in what he is doing. I think that takes up a lot of energy. And I think he sort of burns out a little bit as the day goes on. I think something like the Slam, the Grand Prix, the World Championships is probably going to suit him better than having to come back and try and get up for it again and again and again, because he's just falling before the finishing line.
Luke Humphries was very complimentary of Josh Rock in his sort of winner's speech off the back of the win yesterday in Prague, and said that he's going to be right up there with Luke Littler. And Humphrey said, well, I'm going to be there as well. Do you see, obviously we probably don't see it now. I mean, I don't really know who we call our front 3 runners, sorry, because at the beginning of the year, it was Luke, Michael. I said we went through, off the back of the Premier League, it was probably Luke, Gezzy. Do you think that Josh Rock is just touching that 3rd spot at the table right now, where it will go Humphries and Littler, very, very tight, very, very close if we were looking at ranking money? And now, do you think, I wouldn't say it's cemented, but do you think Josh Rock is almost that 3rd name at the table with those other 2?
I think the world of darts is changing. And by that, in the past, we've had Phil Taylor. He's the man. He's the guy to beat. When Phil Taylor steps aside, Michael Van Gerwen. He's the man. He's the guy to beat. Who is it now? I mean, if you asked who it was, you'd say it's Luke or Luke. So we've already made it a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
We've already got it's him or him. So we don't have the man no more. We don't have the guy at the top. We don't have that Man United back in the day, the Man City of the last few years. We don't have that in the sport anymore. And we've got that split. And that split is the world number 1 and world number 2, which is terrible for the players because it means you're going to have the guy in your half of the draw. remember back in the day, I want to be in the opposite half to Phil Taylor. Who do you want to avoid? Do you want to avoid Luke Humphries or Luke Littler? You know,
Yeah.
And now we've got the problem because, as you mentioned, Josh Rock comes into that conversation, who's playing the same sort of level. Jan van Veen playing the same sort of level. Vessel Nyman, incredible player bursting through with some great results. Gerwyn Price hitting some form. So right now, it's very, very tricky to say, like, if you look at the draw, you go, where do I want to be? I mean, Michael van Gerwen popped in 112 average. You know, you don't want to play his section because he's still got that fear factor. So if you was looking at the draw right now for the World Championships and you go, right, which section of the draw do I want to go in? There's nowhere. There's nowhere you go. That's my section.
That's the beauty of it as well. At the same time, with us as with you as a player and also commentator, punter as well. At the same time, we're in such a glorious period of watching darts where it's like anyone can get beaten and anyone can trounce anyone. Because I think that was the first time you might have mentioned it on comms because I was watching it last night. We're on mute because my housemate wanted to watch the US Open and we had to listen to the commentary of that. But I went on Chat GPT and I was like, when was the last time that Gerwyn Price got whitewashed? And it was against Damon Heta at the World Cup in 2022. I mean, you don't see Gezi Price getting whitewashed, but that's exactly what I mean in the sense that everything is unpredictable and you don't know who's going to turn up and who's going to beat who. And that leads me on to this because someone that's not turning up at the moment, and I'm actually worried about their game plummeting. And it's at a scary rate at the moment, and that's Joe Cullen. What is it that's going on with Joe Cullen right now that you're seeing for your eyes as a pundit and also a commentator and a player as well?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, the Gerwyn Price whitewash, ignoring the World Cup of Darts, it was 2017.
27.
You know,
ChatGPT didn't mention that one,
so
did
that's
it?
if you ignore the World Cup of Darts, because obviously it's much shorter format. But yeah, Joe Cullen's in that category now of someone who is looking back, looking behind them, because he's on the border of not making certain events. With that, you lose ranking money. Joe Cullen is one of those players that's relied on consistent performances in events. Gets to a semi-final or a quarter-final here or there, but regular appearances and the wins that he gets, sort of a sort of 50-50 sort of split, that's what keeps him inside the world's top 32. If he misses a few events, he will drop very quickly. And that's what we're seeing at the moment, I think, where just that fear factor of the rankings kicking in. But I've also said this before as well, if you're going to have a bad year, this is the year to do it, because the prize money changes next year. So you can make it up quite well. So you get likes of Dimitri Vandenberg, the likes of Michael Smith, the likes of Joe Cullen, Peter Wright. There's a list of them out there that are sort of in a little bit of trouble. But if they have a good year next year, it's all forgotten very, very quickly because the prize money jumps.
I just want to give a bit of praise to my good pal and also part of the mission stable is Cam Crabtree. Won another development tour at the weekend. And do you know what? I think, what is that, 4 for the year that he's going through right now? Might even be more than that, but Cam's pulling up trees and just, you know, you look at the whole stable of Mission at the moment and you look at what Richie Edhouse did last year at the Europeans over in Dortmund. The list of names go on who could actually do damage for the back end of the year, Matt.
I think Mission's a great place to start looking for those sort of players as well. Because if you look at sort of what our sort of philosophy or the signings of which we have, we tend to have people that are sort of on a journey. And we tend to pick them up at a certain point. It's sort of like a talent scouting, and we go, right, this guy could go and do something. And you look at some of the players that have represented Mission over the times. Cam Crabtree is one of those that's on that conveyor belt of players. He's knocking on the door of the Grand Slam of Darts right now, which you'd get off the development tour. And I think that'd be great for Cam as well. I remember having a conversation with him sort of around about 12 months ago, where his focus seemed a little bit off. I remember he goes, I'm going to go to Q school, but if I don't get a card, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, but you're going to Q school, and you've already entertained the idea that you're not going to get one. And I saw a little bit of sort of mental weakness there in Cam Crabtree, where he was going there, but he didn't really believe it. Because if he believed it, why does he need a plan B? Why is he in plan C? I've never gone to Q school in my life and thought, right, if I don't get it, I'm going to do this, because I'm going there because I'm going to get it. And you
Yeah.
worry about it afterwards. Commit to it. And that's what we're seeing now with Cam, where he sort of got past what he wanted to get. You know, we all want to get the card. We all want our first appearance on TV. And when you get it, you realise, well, actually, that's not what I thought it'd be. It's not this thing in my mind. I've made it bigger in my head than it actually is. And it becomes easier to get into more. Cam, I think, is there right now where he goes, it's still darts. The board's still the same. It's round. It's got the 20 at the top. I throw from 7-9. It doesn't matter if it's the Alexandra Palace stage or my bedroom. It's all the same. And I think he's getting into that point right now. And that's going to make him very hard to beat.
Matt, thank you so much for your time, mate. And by the way, I just want to give out a big plug to Edgar TV Darts on YouTube. Matt probably knows this right now because he's probably refreshing the YouTube Studio app every single second apart from on this video. 59.8 thousand subscribers. So he's just under 200 away from 60,000 on the channel. So ladies and gentlemen, as well as subscribing to the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel, Matt Edgar has everything over at Edgar TV Darts as well. Let's get him to 60,000 and not far off that silver play of 100,000 subscribers. I mean, Matt's going to get there before us, but listen, we've got a champion everywhere on the channel. Matt, thank you so much for your time.
No problems.